Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. A couple ground rules before we get started. But first, I'd like everyone to please stand, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Front Royal Warren County Chamber of Commerce. There's some guidelines for the forum that I'm going to go over now. These forums are organized and presented by the Front Royal Warren County Chamber of Commerce. These events are nonpartisan and meant to educate and inform the voting public on the candidates and their ability to perform the task of the office for which they hold. Audience members are asked to hold applause while candidates are speaking. Outbursts and yelling from the audience will not be tolerated. We encourage everyone to show respect to the candidates and everyone in attendance. Those who cannot follow these guidelines will be asked to leave or be provided with an escort if necessary. The order of the opening was determined by a random selection, which we did in the hallway. Each candidate will give 1 minute opening introduction and 2 minute closing remarks. We will alternate the candidates to be as fair as possible with each question that we give them. The questions asked of the candidates have been submitted by the Chamber of Commerce to our chamber by the public, developed by representatives of the Chamber's Legislative Committee in the weeks leading up to the forum, or submitted by those in attendance this evening. Thank you for that. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. All questions will be read to the candidates by the moderator, which is me. Only questions that are issue-based will be asked. No questions will be allowed directly from the audience or member to the candidates. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. We are going to be respectful of each other. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question. There's a green light up front that gives the candidate notice to speak. The yellow light means for the candidates that you have about 20 seconds remaining and should finish the sentence that he has begun. The red light indicates that the candidate's time is over. The moderator will interrupt the candidate if he continues beyond the red light time limit. No rebuttals to remarks will be permitted. Our first forum this evening is the Warren County, is for the Sheriff of Warren County. Tonight there are 3 candidates. Actually, there are 4 candidates running, and I would like to say that Mr. Licklider is out with an illness and has been directed by his doctor not to attend tonight. He did not want to spread anything, so he wanted to apologize for not being in attendance tonight. The winner of this election will end up serving a 4-year term. The candidates are Mr. Mark Butler, who will be going first, Mr. Jason Poe, and Mr. Jorge Amselle. If we get a round of applause for these gentlemen standing up here tonight, please. I may have said this out of order, but I have Mr. Butler going first, Mr. Poe, and then Mr. Amselle.
Correct.
On the end. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Butler. You have your 1 minute opening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's been an honor for me to be here tonight. I've been in the community almost 20 years. Raised my children here, coached youth football. Tried my best to be a leader, not just to youth, but also to the community. As we close into November 5th, the most important election I think we'll ever see in our recent years, I ask all of you to vote for honor, integrity, and commitment. Being raised, serving in, watching my children serve our country with military service and law enforcement, I know that I have the honor, integrity, and commitment. We are tired of corruption, drugs, bullying. Our government and everything around us has lacked empathy. We need a change. Status quo cannot no longer be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I I did forget to do something. I just want to let you know that in case an event, there is any type of situation where we need to evacuate the building, we have exits up here at the front and exits in the rear, and the fire marshal has asked that you please leave in an orderly fashion. We do have paramedics on the scene if necessary, so I apologize for leaving that out. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me here. Okay, next will be Mr. Poe. So,
thank you, sir. Thank you all for attending tonight. I'm Jason Poe, your Republican candidate for Warren County Sheriff. This is a critical election. Just by looking at the number of attendance, it's obvious this is a critical election. I too was raised here my entire life. My sons have been raised here. My oldest son, Tyler, who's in attendance, has made me a grandfather, and he's raising his kids here. This is our home. This is where we've laid our roots. What you will find out about me is I have a profound knowledge about the Warren County Sheriff's Office and about the County of Warren as a whole. I'm a public servant. I'm the person that will maintain and defend and fight for your Second Amendment rights and also your constitutional rights. I got over 20 years of law enforcement experience, 18 of which have been right here in Warren County. And listening tonight, you will find that I'm dedicated to public service. I'm the leader that we need to make the Warren County Sheriff's Office turn in the right direction, and I am the right choice for that leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. Mr. Amselle?
Thank you very much. I'm new to the county. I've only been here 5 years, which means I'm not related to anybody. I'm not in business with anybody. I don't owe anybody any money, and I didn't go to school with anybody. I am an independent voice, although I am the Democratic candidate. I've had a lifetime, a career of public service, from serving in the military to volunteering to working in the nonprofit sector. I bring to this position a big picture approach and vision for leadership in this county, which is desperately lacking. I thank you very much, and I hope I can win your support.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with the first question, and the first question is going to go in reverse order this time, and Mr. Amselle, you'll be the first to answer the question, sir. Not a very difficult one, but why should we elect you, the voters of Warren County elect you, and what makes you qualified, sir?
As I stated, I do bring a big picture approach, and let me clarify that some more. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and political science. I have a master's degree in law and public policy. And I have a full career in service as a community builder and community organizer, bringing people together and communicating that vision for having a proactive approach to this position. That's what I intend to bring.
We're going to start over. That's a do-over.
Sure.
So, are you ready? Okay. Okay, Mr. Amselle, let's start over. I apologize for that.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, absolutely. Why should the voters of Warren County elect you, and what makes you qualified to be sheriff?
I have a career in public service from the military, as I stated before, and I also want to emphasize a little bit more of my experience. I do have a bachelor's degree in economics and political science and a master's degree in law and public policy. The job of sheriff is primarily an administrative job and also a community service job. We need someone in that position with vision and a big picture approach who's willing to work proactively to bring all the elements of the community together to provide the services this community needs, first and foremost.
Thank you. Is that timer stuck, Herb? Good job. Okay, Mr. Poe, again, I'll restate the question. Why should Warren County elect you as their sheriff, and what makes you qualified, sir?
Well, my qualifications are I have over 20 years law enforcement experience, of which 18.5 or thereabout was with the Sheriff's Office. During my career, I rose through the ranks, communications to patrol deputy. I worked undercover narcotics here in our locality for a number of years, and I was promoted to a patrol sergeant, to where I served 9 years supervising the patrol division. I was also a special operations team commander. I have a unique and profound understanding of our county and also of the Sheriff's Office, and I've dedicated my entire life to public service. From the time I was 13 years old, I have been engaged in public service right here in Warren County. I have a profound understanding for what the citizens here have come to expect and what they deserve from their Sheriff's Office. And that, in a nutshell, is why I believe that, number one, I have the experience. I'm the leader my leadership experience speaks for itself. I've been a leader in every division that I've worked with the Sheriff's Office, and I think that's what makes me different from any other candidate.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, why should the voters of Warren County elect you, sir, and what qualifies you to be sheriff of our county?
Warren County is my home. It has been for many years. My kids grew up here. I've grown up as an adult here. I know many people here. I, too, have worked in military and law enforcement for a long time. What we need is to reunite as a community. We have been split as a community. I want to bring leadership and direction and empower our deputies to be the best community policing deputies and police officers in the country. We are going to reach CALIA accreditation. We are going to be transparent by going through the accreditation. We will not, I say this again, we will never be embarrassed again by our sheriff's office. Sheriff, we can't have it. I bring the experience. I bring the leadership. I've taught more than everybody up here. Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Okay. I appreciate it.
We will start with Mr. Poe this time. First on this next question, sir. If elected, what changes, if any, would you make to the Warren County Sheriff's Office policies and procedures?
I don't know that necessarily policy and procedure-wise anything really stands out in my forefront of my brain, but what I will change is I will be open and transparent. I want to be trend-setting in that aspect of I want to be a lead example for sheriff's offices around the community to be that open and transparent sheriff's office to where sheriffs are like, that sheriff's doing something right. He's got the backing and the support of his entire community. How do you do that in the circumstances that we're in? You have to be open, you have to be transparent, and you have to go out here and build our partnerships. We have to build partnerships with our community. If our community is not a stakeholder in our sheriff's office, then we are nothing more than an enforcement arm. And if Jason Poe is the sheriff, you will not be just an enforcement arm of a branch of government. We will be transparent and build partnerships so our community has stakeholders. Policies and procedure-wise, that's something once you get into office, you start to look into your first 180 days. None stand out to me right now that I would directly change immediately.
All right, thank you. Mr. Amselle, same question. Would you like it repeated, sir?
Sure.
Okay, great. If elected, what changes, if any, would you make to the Sheriff's Office policies and procedures?
One of the first changes I'd like to see is we need to increase diversity in the Sheriff's Office. We need a Sheriff's Office that reflects the community better. And we do that by having a wide and diverse pool of applicants. You get the best applicant when you have more applicants, not when you have fewer applicants. I also am concerned about the base pay. Now you do that to me on purpose. Can I start over?
Yes.
Sure.
The first thing I want to do is I want to increase diversity in the Sheriff's Office. We need a Sheriff's Office. Oh, come on.
Does that make a difference?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not the...
You go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did I cover the diversity part already? Yeah, all right.
Only a couple times.
So next, we have a problem with retention. We need better pay for our deputies. I'd like to see that increased. Maybe find ways to find savings in the budget so that we can increase deputy pay without having to increase the overall budget, because I certainly don't want to pay more taxes. I'd like to try to bring drug court to the county. Drug abuse is a huge issue in this county, and yet we don't have diversion programs like drug court. I'd like to work with evictions to try to prevent evictions, or at least make sure people who are being evicted have a place to go and don't end up in the streets. We need to start working more proactively with our community resources. We need to make sure that our deputies are aware of all the resources that are available in our community so they can provide those services and those referrals immediately to the people in need when they meet them.
Thank you. Mr. Butler, would you pose the question again?
I think I got it.
Okay, brother.
Look, our community is great. The people in our community, they're great. Our deputies are great. We need to train them. We need to provide our deputies with the best training, period. Because if we did a poll, 80% of our deputies said they did not get the training that they wanted or needed. I talked to Mr. McKeithrin. I tried to bring human trafficking, organized crime, and money laundering classes to the county, and he refused it. So I put a conference on myself. This is what we need to do. We need to make our deputies, give them the tools to empower them to be community policing. Community policing is not something you just wake up and do. It's something you strive to be. By having a community research and community policing, we can actually solve the problems together. And it's a we, not I.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. The next question will start with Mr. Amselle. And Mr. Amselle, would you please tell us what the pros and cons of a drug court will bring to Warren County?
Drug court is certainly not something I didn't come up with. It's something that's already in place across the country and in many counties in Virginia. Winchester implemented drug court 3 years ago with a grant from the Department of Justice, so it wasn't county money. And it's a mixed blessing. I mean, they've had 29 people go through it. 5 has successfully completed it. 11 ended up being reincarcerated. It's not a panacea, but at least it's a chance for some people to find redemption and find reform and find healing from addiction. We definitely need more treatment programs in this community. Drug court is just one avenue to try to achieve a change in this community. There's no reason we shouldn't have it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Poe, the pros and cons of a drug court?
Well, he is correct. Winchester City does have it, where I currently work. One of the cons is not a lot of people successfully pass it. The recidivism rate, apologize for that word, pronunciation, is high. What I will say is I would like to explore drug court here in Warren County with law enforcement overdose intervention program, the LEOP program that Winchester City currently has. And what that allows is if somebody overdoses and they've never been charged with a crime or they're eligible, they complete drug court and they also go into this treatment program the very day that they're overdosed. They make a decision. When I get out of the hospital, do I go to jail or do I go to treatment? And that is a successful program in the city of Winchester right now that we're seeing work together with drug court. Another avenue would be if they go to treatment, instead of charging them if they fall out of treatment, is that we send them through drug court. So it's just another step before incarceration, if you will.
Okay, thank you, sir. Pros and cons of Mr. Butler of a drug court?
Pros and cons of drug court, it's been going on for a while, and I believe it started in Miami. They had some successes, they had a lot of failures. It's really 50-50 depending on where you look at it. But really and truly, if we look at the sheriff's office, that's not their job. It's not their job to create a drug court. It's not the sheriff's job to do that. The sheriff's job is simple. Enforce the laws on the books, protect your constitutional rights. Now, if we were running for Commonwealth or clerk of the court or something like that, that's different. It's what the people want to do. My job as sheriff will be to do what the people are asking us to do in the legislature. That's it. Has it worked? Yes, it has. Has it not? Yes, no, it really hasn't. So it all depends on what study you look at. I don't think it's clear yet. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll start with Mr. Butler. You'll lead out this question first.
Sure.
As sheriff, what would you do to improve growth and retention of the officers of Warren County?
Law enforcement does not do this job for the money. We'd like to make a better wage than what we do in Warren County. What I want to do is empower our deputies with the job that they know that they're doing, and they are supported by true leadership. Because right now, we do not have true leadership in the sheriff's office. We do not have the leadership in the sheriff's office that we need. We are going to promote the best, most qualified deputies. We are going to hold those deputies to a standard just as equal as the sheriff will be held to that same standard. We will hold everyone accountable, and that hasn't happened in Warren County in the past 8 years. That's how we're going to make a difference.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Amselle, as sheriff, what would you do to improve the growth and retentions of your officers?
I definitely feel that pay is a factor in retention. I would definitely, as I said before, already work to increase deputy starting pay at the very least. We also need to make sure that we support our deputies fully, that in this position, you experience trauma, you experience things that no one should have to see. And deputies who need help should feel free to come forward and get the help they need and not feel any shame in getting help that they need for whatever issues they're having. And I will make sure that I support those deputies. I will also make sure that I work with the Board of Supervisors to ensure that our department has all the resources they need to do their job. And for that, you need someone who understands politics and understands how to negotiate and work with elected officials. And that is something that I've been doing my entire career.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poe, as sheriff, what would you do to improve the growth and retention of your officers, sir?
It absolutely breaks down to leadership. It's got to be fair and equal treatment across the board. Step one was the Master Deputy Program. A new deputy has to come in and have a vision, okay? And as a sheriff, I have to have a vision. As my division commanders, they have to have a vision. A sheriff's office with no vision, you're going to fail. Your people are going to leave. It does not ultimately boil down to money. The Master Deputy Program is a step. It gives them objectives to work to give those incentives money-wise throughout their career. Also, I do agree with Mr. Amselle. Mental health is a condition. You know, I was involved in, we had a line of duty death this year, and it impacted my department in many different ways. I found myself being a leader through that and helping the young officers along. So it is impactful. But I can tell you leadership and vision is what the Warren County Sheriff's Office needs, and I will bring that to the Sheriff's Office to make a successful department and keep the people eager to come to work every single day.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poe, we'll start with you with the next question. What agencies outside of the Sheriff's Department do you believe are the most important, and how are you going to work with them?
Number one agency that I want to work with is Northwestern Mental Health Services. I want to bridge the gap between people suffering in crisis and mental health episodes and our mental health workers and law enforcement. As law enforcement, we're responding to their addresses. If they're not a danger to themselves or others, we leave. We don't help them. So what I want to do is I want to bridge the gap and work with our mental health professionals right here. We have home base on Chrysler Road, and when we make that contact at 3 a.m., we write a report, it goes in our database, and it gets forwarded to the appropriate person. That liaison comes in the next day or the day after, and they get into a police car, and they go out and they make contact with that person that may be suffering from a mental health episode. And we start to bridge that gap and make those contacts and help the people that need to be helped, instead of just letting it spiral out of control until we get the 911 call and chaos is erupted.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, what agencies outside of the Sheriff's Department do you believe are most important, and how are you going to work with them?
I actually don't disagree with Mr. Poe on this one. Mental health in our country, 1 in 5 people are diagnosed with mental health. I can talk over. We're good. 1 in 5 people in our country are diagnosed with mental health. That's only the ones that are actually identified, that actually go to treatment. First thing we need to do is train our deputies how to de-escalate. Every deputy in that department should be crisis intervention trained to de-escalate the situation and then be able to reach out to the different areas of need for that individual. Because it could be autism, it could be dementia, it could be a lot of different things. Mr. Poe was not wrong on that one. Mental health is a major issue in our community and in our country, and is hurting every family. Everyone in this room can probably relate to that issue. But training our deputies is the very first thing we need to do.
Thank you, sir.
we're even.
You guys got it over there? Thanks for all the work, brother. Okay, Mr. Amselle. What agencies outside the Sheriff's Department do you believe are the most important, and how are you going to work with them, sir?
I think the most important one is our schools. We need early intervention programs in our schools to work with our kids who are suffering from trauma, who are suffering from abuse, who may be having issues of mental health or substance abuse in their homes. This year, we moved to having school resource officers at every school in the county. That was a good move, but they're not just there as security guards. They need to be community resource officers to be involved in that school and involved in those kids' lives and in helping not just the kids, but the parents as well. I think it starts first and foremost with the schools. But yes, I completely agree that we need intensive, outpatient substance abuse and mental health care treatment in this county, and we don't have that, and I will work to try to bring that into this county.
Thank you. With question number 6, Mr. Amselle, we'll start with you. Will you continue to support the school resource officer funding, and what is your vision for the SROs in the future?
It's absolutely essential. Of course I will support them, and I think that, if you think of a school resource officer as nothing but a security guard, then that's not, we need a lot more than that. Like I said, they need to be more than school resource officers. They need to be community resource officers. They need to be aware of all the community resources. So when a student's family is in need, they can connect that student's family with the resources to help them. We have a newly formulated DARE program that was changed to an evidence-based program in 2018. I want to make sure that every single one of our school resource officers has gone through the new training to teach the new DARE program, which promises to be much more effective than the old program. So I will support them 100%. And again, like I said, working with the schools has got to be our top priority.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, will you continue to support the school resource officer funding, and what is your vision for the SROs in the future, sir?
My vision for the SROs in the future, Fairfax County does this very well. Our SROs handle more MS-13, 18th Street attacks, bullies, and so forth every single day than probably Warren County probably sees in a year. It's constantly going on with all the schools. Our school resource officers are the link between us and the school. They are the mentors to our children. We have great school resource officers, very good resource officers. We have to have them better trained, and then instead of in the summer being off, doing a civil process or something like that, let's keep them in programs to help mentor our children. Let's keep them working with the children. That way we can have a closer bond and tie. That's what I'm looking for with school resource officers.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Amselle, will you continue to support the school resource officer funding, and what is your vision of the SRO?
I think you asked me that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey. Well, since you've gone 3 times already, twice, so let's make it a 4th. I'm sorry, Mr. Poe, the question at hand, sir?
I'm absolutely committed to keeping every school resource officer that we have. I'm also committed in making sure we have the right school resource officer in the right school. That fit is crucial. It is crucial for them because I want them to build partnerships. They are our liaison from our youth growing. That is our youth development right there. It starts in our school system, ladies and gentlemen. And that resource officer, I want them to be so in tune with their children inside their city, in their streets, in their hallways, because that is their city, that they know by the look on Johnny's face, something's off, something's wrong. Our schools aren't that big to where these resource officers can't be in that tune with their students. I think that's absolutely essential that they are daily activity with their kids. They're mentors, and that's where I talk about building my partnerships. That's my number 2 focus in partnerships is the school resource officers inside of our schools, making relationships with our children and keeping our schools safe for our teachers.
Thank you, sir. Question 7, be to Mr. Butler. Long-winded question here, so bear with me. As a potential elected official representing your office and the citizens of Warren County, do you feel you have a moral, ethical, and legal responsibility to work with other officials to establish and/or enforce existing policies and procedures to provide a safe place to learn and work? And if yes, what would you change immediately?
Wow. Yeah. That's longer, the minute's longer on the question. The biggest thing for a sheriff's office is, like I said before, enforce the laws on the books. Enforce the laws and protect the constitutional rights. I don't care if it's working with ATF, working with Western State, working with the morgue. I don't care who we're working with. Let's all work together, we together, unite, and become a community again. Because this division that's happening is not good for anyone. So we have to work with everyone. I think I got that long question.
I'm going to try.
Good luck with that one, Jason.
Now, I'm completely out of order now. Let me try this again. All right. We'll start with Mr. Poe. As a potential elected official representing your office and the citizens of Warren County, do you feel you have a moral, ethical, legal responsibility to work with other officials to establish and/or enforce existing policies and procedures to provide a safe workplace to learn and work in our schools and our workplaces in the county?
As a sheriff and as a deputy, we don't enforce policies unless they're within our walls. Now, we enforce laws, and I will certainly assist the school system or any other local business. We do it all the time as police officers. If they're firing somebody and they don't feel comfortable with the process of firing someone, we are close by. We may be in a building or in the vicinity, and that is helping out with a policy of theirs, but we don't enforce their policies, just like we don't enforce subdivision covenances. We can assist you in doing that and telling you the legal ramifications to go enforce that, but we, as law enforcement officers, we don't do that. That's a civil issue. However, I will protect and help any elected official or any boss or a corporation that's out here that calls upon our assistance as a sheriff's office, and absolutely I will enforce the laws that are on the books, and I will not enforce an unconstitutional law. I want to be clear about that, but I will enforce the laws as they're handed down to us. Absolutely.
Thank you for that explanation and answer. Mr. Amselle, you ready?
I'm ready. You want to ask
All right.
it again, just to make sure I get it, because it's a long one.
Okay. As a potential elected official representing your office and the citizens of Warren County, do you feel you have a moral, ethical, legal responsibility to work with other officials to establish and/or enforce existing policies and procedures to provide a safe place to learn and work?
Yes. I'll elaborate. Of
We were
course,
thinking this.
we need to work collaboratively with all of the county agencies, and not just the government agencies of the county, but the ministerial associations, the faith-based groups, the nonprofit organizations, the social service agencies. We absolutely have to work together. But furthermore, we have to work to restore trust in this community. And the only way to do that, as we all stated here, is to be transparent and above board in everything we do. I don't expect you to trust us to investigate ourselves, because we're too small and too tight-knit of a community to do that. We need to be able to bring in outside agencies to review any allegations of wrongdoing so that you have trust that any investigations are being done properly.
Thank you for that. Mr. Poe, we'll start with question number 8.
Yes, sir.
What do you feel are the two biggest issues facing Warren County from a law enforcement perspective, and how will you address those issues?
Drugs and mental health. Besides the fact that we're divided as a community with all the EDA stuff, that will work itself out. But I can tell you our drug problem it's instrumental to our community, and I will attack it head on. That's my background is drugs. I've developed a 72 and go program within 72 hours of receiving information of a drug house. I want to be able to execute a search warrant or push through and do non-traditional ways to substantiate those claims, trash rips, other investigative techniques to get on top of our drug issues. I don't want people selling drugs in our community or your neighbors for 10 or 11 months while we work a case and then indict them, and then they're back on the streets in 90 days. That's not what we do. Mental health, I want to bridge it between law enforcement and our mental health professionals. Just as I explained, I want to be able to go out door to door when someone's suffering and provide them a liaison to Northwestern Community Services. Get them the help that they need, fast, quick, and efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Butler, what do you feel the two biggest issues facing Warren County from a law enforcement perspective, and how will you address those issues?
First, I think it's trust. We have to gain the trust back with it, the community has to trust us as an agency. Second is drugs. 2 years ago, I asked a classroom at Skyline Academy, what was the biggest problem in their area? Everyone said heroin. I asked 2 chiefs and a sheriff how they were going to fix it. They said zero tolerance. We've been doing zero tolerance since 1983 when Nancy Reagan said just say no. It hasn't worked. It has not worked. We need to start being more proactive. Not political policing, not statistical policing. We need to do proactive policing. We get community involved with us, getting auxiliary deputies, reserve deputies, get as many people as we can working with us, we can solve the problem. We can run the drugs out of Warren County. If not, we'll definitely give it everything we have.
Thank you.
Oh, that question?
Yes.
Goodness gracious. Prepare yourselves.
All right. Just a second.
Another long one?
No, very. It's half a page.
All right. Did they write big?
Now I check my reading skills.
24 font?
Okay, for,
Right. Jorge has an answer.
oh, I'm sorry. I was so confused by the next questions. Mr. Amselle, my apologies again.
No problem.
What do you, sir, feel are the 2 biggest issues facing Warren County from a law enforcement perspective, and how do you are going to address those issues?
Well, clearly, it's substance abuse and mental health. Half of all the arrests in the county last year were either drug or alcohol related. 90% of the inmates in RSW have mental health or substance abuse issues, or both. We need to address this problem. And the fact of the matter is, we can't arrest our way out of the drug problem. We need to stop treating substance abuse as a law enforcement issue and start treating it as a public health issue. Only going after the supply hasn't worked for 50 years. We need to address the demand side of drugs and drug addiction. You cannot arrest someone out of addiction. We need intensive outpatient drug treatment and substance abuse treatment in this county, and that will be my #1 priority, is to bring that in this county. Absolutely, we're going to go after the drug dealers, but we need to deal with the supply, with the demand for drugs in the first place. We'll never get past this problem otherwise.
Thank you. The next and last question is quite lengthy, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first part only once. It's a definition out of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And it says, in the U.S., a sheriff or an official in a court or independent city responsible for keeping the peace and enforcing the law. So that is a definition in the U.S. of a sheriff or an elected official. So here's the question. I'll start with you, Mr. Amselle. Keeping this definition in mind, would you as a sheriff enforce the laws that you may not agree with, such as working with ICE on immigration issues, enforcing red flag laws if they were passed, or not targeting marijuana users if it became legal in the Commonwealth?
The sheriff, like any police officer, like any prosecutor, like any judge, like the governor, has something called prosecutorial discretion. He can decide how to best use his resources to benefit the community. He can decide what areas to prioritize and what areas not to prioritize. No, I will not work with ICE because that makes our communities less safe. And I would only enforce red flag laws if due process is observed, to answer your specific issues. As far as marijuana goes, 11 states have already completely legalized it. 20 states have legal medical marijuana. Many others have significantly decriminalized it. I've been a strong advocate for marijuana decriminalization. We spent $81 million a year in this state on marijuana enforcement. Colorado legalized it, and now they're making $135 million in tax revenue going towards drug addiction treatment, going towards drug prevention education. We need to move in that direction.
Thank you. Mr. Butler, keeping the same definition in mind, would you as sheriff enforce the laws that you may or may not agree with, such as working with ICE on immigration issues, enforcing red flag laws if they were passed, or not targeting marijuana users if it became legal in the Commonwealth?
Well, let's start with the Second Amendment. You have the right to bear arms. Your sheriff is to protect you of your constitutional right. Let's look at the 14th Amendment, equal and fair punishment to all. Sanctuary cities are not legal and they are not constitutional. They should not be there, and all they do is bring crime to your city. I've worked it for the last 15, 20 years. It's bad, but it is illegal. it clearly states 13 federal, 8 U.S.C., 1324 is harboring, 1325 states it's illegal to come in the country without inspection. 1373 says no policy will ever tell you that he or she can or cannot enforce that law. So for a sheriff to do that or set a policy, it would be unlawful. Therefore, sanctuary cities or no, red flag laws, you have the right to bear arms, and I'll be there to protect your constitutional right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poe, keeping the definition in mind, would you as sheriff enforce the laws you may or may not agree with, such as working with ICE on immigration issues, enforcing red flag laws if they were passed, or not targeting marijuana users if it became legal in the Commonwealth?
I will work with ICE. Absolutely. They're a legal agency within our federal government, and they are here to protect us from illegal aliens. People that enter our country illegally have broken the law, period. I will work with ICE. Red flag laws, getting way complicated there. However, with expedient due process, if the law is passed appropriately, it's the law. But it has to have expedient due process. I do not believe in taking someone's right to bear arms without due process, period. Marijuana, you said it was legal, right?
If it became legal, sir.
I will not enforce it. It's legal. It's a moot point. It's a legal drug in the Commonwealth of Virginia. However, I would like to address the Colorado issue. It is legal, and crime is through the roof.
Yes, it is.
They have lost. People are losing their minds because the THC is extremely high. It's almost at 100%. I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to do our closing remarks. You're going to have 2 minutes. Or, you have 2 minutes. Herb, you're good? Okay. Mr. Amselle, we'll start with you, sir, with your closing remarks.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out. This is it's going to be a long evening for everybody, so thank you for your interest in our community and in this campaign. I feel that my diversity of experience, my big picture approach, my proactive policies that I would like to implement make me the best candidate for this office. And I hope that you will do the research, visit my website, ask me any questions you'd like afterwards, and we can move forward in this community. So I ask you for your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Butler, 2 minutes, sir.
I thank everybody for coming out. 2 years have gone by. I know Jason and I have been going at it for quite some time. It's put a lot of pressure on our family, our friends, our community. I want to see November 6th, no matter what happens, we have to live together. We have to reunite somehow. Hopefully, it is me as your sheriff, and I will do everything in my power to lead our sheriff's office in the right direction and bring our community back together. If it is not me, I will support that sheriff with everything I have to do the same thing. Our community must come back together. 20 years ago when 20-some years ago, when I got out of the military, I came down to visit my in-laws down here. And I didn't want to live in Manassas anymore, and that was the town I grew up in. Front Royal, Warren County, reminded me of Manassas when I was growing up. This has been a great home for my children. My son just got back from Afghanistan. My other son's in Africa serving. I have had a great relationship with the high schools, the middle school, and the schools, elementary schools. It has been a blessing to be here. And I've met so many friends. It has been a true honor to run for sheriff of Warren County. And I just hope everyone can put aside the negativity that we're putting out there to people and actually just research everyone. Research every one of us up here. Look in your hearts and your souls and find out who is the best candidate for you and your family. When we do that, we'll pick the right sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Mr. Poe, you'll be last to go.
Absolutely. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting us and thank everyone for attending tonight. In closing, I want you to understand why Jason Poe. I want you to understand my life's purpose. My life's purpose has been community service from the time I was 13 years old. I bleed public service. I possess not 1 ounce of politician in me. This is a political process, ladies and gentlemen, and I submit to that. It is a political process. However, what I believe in is I believe in excellence through partnerships and transparency. I believe in strong leadership, compassion, and accountability from the top down, not from the bottom up, from the top down. And I believe in order to have that successful, it has to be an open line of communication back and forth. My office has to be open and transparent. I want to build relationships with our community through our youth outreach, through our community outreach, and our community-based policing. I want to maintain those partnerships. I'm going to get out of my office and come see you to make sure you're having a good day, to see if there's anything that I can do for you. I don't expect you to come to my office to maintain those partnerships. I will confront the issues head-on, the opioid and heroin crisis, our school violence. They will not occur if I have anything to do with it in our community. Mental and behavioral health, I want to bridge that gap. I've went over that with you. You understand what I want to bring there, and that's going to be trend setting. I'm committed to a 72 and Go program. That's a program that effectively is in a drug dealer's face every time he crosses the bridge into Front Royal or crosses I-66 Linden Mountain coming into Linden to come to Front Royal to make a lot of money with the people that have habits in our community. I want to leave you with this. I've proven my leadership abilities throughout my career with the different divisions that I have worked in, from dispatch to patrol to narcotics to now in the city of Winchester. I'm law enforcement endorsed. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I'll protect your constitutional rights. And above all else, I will instill faith, accountability, and justice back into our local government. And I ask that you support me, Jason Poe, November the 5th for Warren County Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. At this time, I'd like everybody to give a round of applause for these gentlemen. Thank you. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.